at C-DEP Research, joining us live from New Delhi. Thank you for joining us back here for this. The Strait of Hormuz, as we know, is the major disruption to these fuel prices. Economies, countries around the world having to up their prices. Is India's second fuel price hike in a week a sign that international energy shocks are now directly and immediately transmitted to domestic consumers?
So what was happening in India is that it was buffering the price rise that was happening. So there was fuel price rise happening from Jan onwards. The cost of basket crude for India has gone up by about 80%. Now that's only one part of the story, that the cost of crude in dollar terms have gone up. We also need to keep in mind that the rupee has depreciated by about 12% since the beginning of this year. So there is a double whammy in rupee terms that India is facing. So the cost of energy has significantly gone up. The government took very significant steps as soon as this instability came in terms of cutting its own taxes, providing fiscal support to the oil marketing companies, and so on and so forth. But there is only that much that any government can do. And if the government continues to support the stabilization of prices at the older level, then it will burn a big hole into the government's kitty. Now, the government for a long time has been trying to keep its fiscal deficit below 4%. Last year, it had glided back to 4.3, and we were trying to bring it lower than that. As the beginning of this decade started with COVID, it derailed India's fiscal deficit target. It had been brought back into control, and again, because of the issues that we are seeing in terms of providing support to energy prices in India, the government fiscal deficit will take a severe hit. So under those circumstances, the government has been left with no other choice but to gradually increase the prices. Now, there has been counter narrations that let the government freely increase prices, because once the price goes up, people will consume less and the rupee will get depreciated further. Therefore, our exports will become more competitive. Now, that's a very very simplistic argument from an economic perspective, because what will really happen is that those in the society who have the buying power will then start hoarding the resources such as energy, and the vulnerable sections of society in India will get deeply impacted. And therefore, the government is trying to do a very careful calibration between what is needed for the people, for the most vulnerable sections of the people, for the economy, and for its own treasury to remain healthy. So it's a very fine balance that the government is doing, and therefore slowly increasing the price in order to maintain this balance.
And with retail fuel prices rising in quick succession, is the government moving towards a gradual pass-through model of global oil costs? And how politically sensitive could sustained price increases become ahead of future economic cycles?
Yeah, from a political sensitivity, India is a very vibrant democracy, and we have seen the opposition picking on the government for any price rise that's happening in spite of the larger geo-economic situation. And therefore, of course, price rise, and especially price rise in fuel, is very, very politically sensitive. But the government needs to do what it needs to do for the reasons I just explained, that it needs to balance its own treasury versus the requirements of the consumer, the oil companies, and the stability of the rupee. The one other thing that the government should be doing at this point in time is perhaps make sure that Indian domestic capacities are used to its hilt. And in many cases, that is not happening because of dumped imports. And perhaps implementation of anti-dumping duty in areas where dumping has been determined by the India's Directorate General of Trade Remedies. If that's followed through, perhaps it will provide some more relief to the imports that's happening, and therefore play a significant role in reducing the depreciation of rupee, and therefore provide relief. So the government, I'm sure, will be taking all these steps in tandem. And at this point in time, as you rightly said, There is a gradual increase in the cost of fuel, and there will be political repercussions of it. But I guess the government is ready to take those political repercussions to do what seems to be right for the country at this point in time.
Of course. Dr. Jaijit, thank you so much for joining us here today on NewsX. Well, it's a pleasure, as always, speaking with you. Cuban President Miguel Diaz-Canel has said that any US military action against Cuba